Hi there, it's Louise Harrington here from Performance Accountancy, and this video is all about gift aid and the effect it has on your tax return, or maybe an effect on your tax return. So we're going to kick off. So the basic rules are money given to charity can have gift aided attached to it. So in effect, if you are a UK taxpayer, you can give money to charity. It must be a UK or an European economic area charity. So it must be registered. It's not just a person down the end of the road that says is a charity. It must be a registered charity. And what can happen is that you can give the charity, let's say £100, tick the gift aid box, they apply to HMRC, and your £100 actually becomes £125. So for every £1 you give to the charity, HMRC give 25p. It's like, woohoo, win-win. And obviously you feel good for giving money to charity. Now, it doesn't have to be a big worldwide charity, but UK based, like, I don't know, let's say the Red Cross or Great Ormond Street. It could be some of the little charities down the road, but they all have to be registered charities, and with that they can then claim from the government 25p in the pound, and that's great. They normally do it once a year. They have gift aid forms they have to complete. They have to give a list of people's names and how much money has been donated and the gift aid being claimed. So whether there's any checks between who's paid what and people's tax returns, I don't know. Never asked. So that is the basis of gift aid. You pay in £1, HMRC pays in 25p, so your effective contribution is £1.25. Okay, so remember that bit. Now, there can be 3 different effects on your tax return, and it does depend on what your UK tax status is. So if you don't actually earn enough money to pay income tax, so your income is below the personal allowance, then never ever tick the gift aid box. It does ask if you're a UK taxpayer. People just assume that you're UK resident, so yes, of course you're a UK taxpayer. But if you don't earn enough money, then you should not be ticking that gift aid box. The effect is you haven't actually paid over to HMRC any tax, and it is your contribution to the HMRC coffers that allows them to pay over to the charity the effectively 20%, so 25p in the pound. So what will end up happening is you put in £100 into the gift aid box. It gets grossed up by the HMRC systems to £125 because that's the total contribution that the charity will have got, but you haven't paid £25 to HMRC in order for them to give the £25 to the charity. HMRC will still pay it over, but the effect is, unfortunately, you have to pay over this extra £25. So not only have you given the £100, the effect of ticking the gift aid box is you then have to pay the extra £25. Okay. So if you are a basic rate taxpayer, the gift is still £100. The effective gift to the charity is £125. So your contribution is £125. What happens for you is that the basic rate tax threshold gets increased by £125. But in effect, it doesn't give you any benefit, because so what if the tax threshold between 20% and 40%, or if you're in Scotland between 20% and 21%, the increase doesn't make any difference to you because you haven't got enough income to go over that threshold. So it needs to be in the tax return because it's part of the form, but you don't get any benefit from it. Okay. So The benefit kicks in if you are a higher rate taxpayer or an additional rate taxpayer. I'm only looking at higher rate taxpayer now. So the gift of £100 goes into the tax return at £100 and it gets grossed up to £125 as before. So as per the non-taxpayer and the 20% taxpayer. The basic rate tax threshold then gets increased by £125. So in effect, you are saving tax at 40%, or in Scotland at 21%, as it gets added to the threshold to get to the next level. So what that means is £125 worth of your income would have been taxed at 40%, so you would have a tax bill of £50. But as the threshold has been increased by £125, that £125 worth of income is now only taxed at 20%. So therefore, you gain £25. So you're not paying tax of £25 extra. For Scotland, it's not much of a difference. So for Scotland, the £125 worth of income would have been taxed on the individual at 21%. So you would have paid over 26.5%, but that 125 increase in the threshold means it's only taxed at 20%, so the bill is only £25. So you save £1.25, you know. So the joy of being a Scottish taxpayer is you don't save as much for that. So in your tax return, you are only putting £100 in the gift aid, but because it equals £125 being given to the charity, 100 from you, 25 from the government, you will see on your tax return it then says you have made a contribution of £125. So in summary, if you think you are not going to be paying any UK income tax, do not tick the gift aid box for any new donations. If you currently have direct debits going out, etc., to charities, which a lot of people do, you can then call the charity and ask them to cancel the gift aid for that tax year. Possibly, if you're lucky, they might be able to cancel it for the year before. You can always phone them up again in a few years later when income's picked up to add the gift aid box back on. Now, one thing to point out, a lot of PAYE people may be paying towards a charity. So you've gifted money to charity, but you've done nothing about it. So if you are a higher rate taxpayer and you don't do a tax return, get yourself onto the tax return system for self-assessment, especially if it's a fair whack like a tithe to a church. Do a tax return. It will increase your threshold between 20 and 40%, and then potentially you are paying less tax and you may even get a rebate. I wouldn't suggest it if you're not paying, you know, a fair whack into a charity of, you know, unless you're paying things like £10 and £20, etc. It's not worth your time to do a tax return or employ an accountant to do it. But people do make considerable payments to churches, so it's a good thing to look at if you can. Any questions? Feel free to drop me an email and we'll try and help. Thanks, Em. Bye-bye.